Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Combat Chatters podcast. This is going to be the last episode of the year, being recorded on New Year's Eve. We're going to be going over our best moments of 2023, the best moments of the UFC. Should be really interesting. We have lots of different talking points, the most controversial fighter, best gyms, top 5 fighters, our personal favourites, and who we think have been the best this year performers. If you start us off, Finn, we are joined by Harrison as well.
Yeah, we thought we'd get three of us on today's one, big episode to end the year. Um, there's a lot of stuff to talk about today, but briefly just want to touch on we actually didn't talk about Leon Edwards defending his title. Big congrats to him. A lot of craziness went on that week. I'm sure we're going to talk about the trash talk at some point during this pod because Kobe Covington might appear on these lists a couple of times, but yeah, congrats to Leon. I wish he put some more damage on him, but
Yeah, it would have been nice to have seen him knock him out.
yeah.
Right, everyone just always tunes in to see Kobe get knocked out, and it never bloody happens.
But yeah, overall it was a good performance, really good card to end the year. And not long until we're back every week with content about the UFC cards. But today we're concentrating on just our lists on sort of top knockouts and all this sort of stuff. So starting off, we're going to go top 5 fights of the year. Shall I just run through my top five?
I'll go for it, go for it.
So number 5, I've gone Shavkat versus Neal.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there as well.
Number 4, I've gone Hooker versus Turner. Number 3, I've gone Borishev versus Sadikov. Number 2, Panjota Moreno. Number 1, Volk Islam. I went Volk Islam number 1 because obviously not their second fight, their first fight early in the year. It was just such an anticipated fight. Volkanovski moving up to a different weight class, putting his pound for pound number 1 ranking on the line. Islam Makhachev puts his title on the line, and that's one of the only times a fight with that much hype has really lived up to the sort of potential it could be, and both so technical, put on an absolute masterclass, and in my opinion was best fight of the year and one of the best fights in UFC history.
And just to say, for him to move up, massive weight difference there, size difference and all that, and he's still put it on Makhachev.
Yeah.
Like he still looked competitive the whole way through the fight. It was a really good performance for both of them, obviously.
I did pretty well in the grappling as well. Like he wasn't necessarily doing a lot to him, but he was holding himself well.
Yeah.
Which against somebody like Makhachev, Makhachev will ragdoll a lot of opponents, especially opponents who are moving up as well. Obviously, with the UFC, these fighters aren't actually featherweights or lightweights, where it is often a lot heavier. There's often all that water weight which is being cut. Overall, though, it was a really contentious fight, and like you said, what was put on the line for it, there was a lot at stake.
Yeah.
It was probably one of the biggest fights to make that year, where it would have been at the time. So it was really impressive. Yeah, the first one, really good fight. Second one, ended a bit quicker.
Yeah.
Way too quick for my liking, to be honest. That was not a nice one to watch.
But no, I'm like you said, Harrison as well, really competitive, and that's why I put it number 1. It was probably one of the most entertaining and technical fights to watch.
Yeah, I
Have you got that number 1 as well?
Yeah, my list is actually pretty similar to yours. I'm not going to lie. That is my number 1. 4 and 5. I've also got the same as you. Like Shavkat at 5, Shavkat and Jeff Neal at 5, Hooker and Turner at 4. Just because that fight was incredible.
Yeah.
Like what a performance! What a performance from both of them.
Yeah. So I think maybe the only one I got different to you guys is Borishev against Sadikov.
No, I got 2 different to you because I've got Gaethje and Fazivin at second. That's my second fight. That was a war and a half. They've scrapped it right out.
It's my second as well, to be fair.
Really?
Yeah.
Why don't you guys give me your list quickly then?
So my list is going to be different. It's from number 3 onwards. They're not necessarily. I don't know if they're the best fights of the year, but they were definitely entertaining to watch. Top 5. So I went Usman Chimaev. Now this is probably quite a controversial pick.
It was a good fight.
It was a good fight. I did enjoy watching it. I mean, I was surprised at how well Usman did in that fight, especially after his recent losses.
What I liked about the fight though was looking at it. I thought that Chimaev was going to steamroll him, and if you actually look at it, these are 2 of the most technical fighters in that division. Really, Usman is not long been a champion. He's only really recently had a couple of performances which weren't necessarily terrible. But hard losses regardless, and Chimaev is just on the way up. I'd like to see him more active, and we do need to see that. But to think that who takes Usman down like that, to just charge at him and think, and Usman was definitely defending those takedowns as well.
I remember leading up to that fight. Everybody thought he was just going to steamroll Usman, and he was going to have him out of there within first few minutes. Most people thought, but if you can remember, I was sat there saying, don't underestimate Usman, because Usman is still a top level wrestler, one of the best fighters that middleweights probably ever seen. Possibly.
Welterweights.
Yeah, welterweight. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, my head a little bit mixed up there. So yeah, I think that was an awesome fight. But yeah, I expect to see more out of Chimaev as well, especially like more activeness and stuff like that. I'd like to see him fight more.
What about just run us through your last three? What were they, Fergs?
So the last four were it was Aspinall, Pavlovich. You have to put on there. He's a real heavyweight champion. The real heavyweight champion of the world.
Maybe not for the best fight list though.
Well, no. It was though, because it was great. It was great. You know everything about it. Perino versus Pantoja. That was number 3. That was a really, really scrambly bout. I think the same as yours, Harrison. Number 2 is Gaethje versus Vazeev. After the war, and then Makhachev Volk, as I've already said, that was number 1 as well.
Yeah, so my list was obviously Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Jeff Neal at number 5. Number 4 was Hooker and Turner. Again, brilliant fight. 3 was Yusuf and Barbosa.
Good fight.
That was a bloody good fight. I very much enjoyed watching that fight. Very back and forth again. Big props to Hooker as well, man, in that fight. Was it
Barbosa?
The Barbosa one. Yeah, that was the comeback one. Yeah. Sorry, big props for Barbosa, because he really took some massive shots in that fight and still managed to walk him down and get his man out of there in the end.
Yeah. The only one I've got different to you guys, Boroshev Sadikov. I put this fight at number 3 just because it's 2 guys that are both on their way up, and it's just such a technical war between. Like, it was a bloodbath in the end. Both very high level strikers. Boroshev, I think he's had 80 kickboxing fights. It's crazy level of striking. So he went out there and really put it on Sadikov, but Sadikov hurt him real bad, got a 10-8, and it ended in a draw. So, in my opinion, for good fights, you don't get much better than that. So I think we should move on to our personal favourite female and male fighter of the year. Why don't you get a start, Fergal, on favourite male fighter?
So my favourite male fighter of the year is Leon Edwards, and it's one of these things. I don't think it's because he's necessarily been the most exciting fighter to watch this year, although what he has done with his belt defending, considering he's just became a champion, he's like the second British champion. It's very impressive, but just everything about him, the way he's conducted himself and what he's done to defend it. He's fought these. Well, Kobe Covington, maybe not a high level opponent, not as high level opponent as we.
He's
not as high a level opponent as what we thought he was.
No,
he's fought. He looks like he's starting to see his decrease, his downfall a little bit.
I think a lot of that's inactivity as well, though. Although he did look very, very slow. But what I really like about him is the way he's conducted himself, particularly in that fight as well. Considering how calm he remained, I know there was a water ball thrown at the press conference. However, if you look at his composure, although it wasn't a necessarily super exciting fight to watch, the way he fought, how calm and composed he was, to not let loose, to not essentially get caught out by Kobe, which could have happened.
I mean, let's be real. He spoke about his deceased father being in hell. That can rattle a man.
Said some pretty really nasty shit. During the lead up to that fight as well. So that's just fueled Edwards to make him look like an idiot even more.
For my favourite female fighter, I went for Angela Hill. And the reason behind it is I think that if you look at what Angela Hill is doing, or the way she's trying to progress her career, she's 38 years of age now. She is getting up there. She's towards the age of retirement. A lot of fighters will have retired by 38.
Yeah,
a lot of them will have, but she's still looking to go through rankings and potentially look at a shot. And you have to just rate it. You can't not respect it, and it's just that drive which not every fighter has at that age. Not to just potentially keep fighting, but to actually make their way, and it's possible as well. It's plausible.
She's one of them unlucky fighters as well. She's been fighting for so long in these divisions in the UFC. And she gets shafted with so many judges' decisions and stuff like that. So it's nice. It's nice to hear someone pick her as a favourite fighter. To be quite honest.
Yeah, and she had a rough fight against Mackenzie Dern.
Yeah,
and then she came back this year against Denise Gomez, who was a massive favourite and dominated. Really showed why she is the veteran she is. Beating a real young up and comer like that. When people thought she might be on the decline after that really bad loss to Dern, but. Yeah, I really like that pick.
Yeah, me too.
What about you, Harry? Favourite male and female?
Yeah, right. So I'm going to go with my favourite female fighter because what a fucking performance she put on this year. Pardon my French. Alexa Grasso. What a performance she's put on this year. Not only to sub Shevchenko, but then to draw with her after that and a massively competitive fight.
Yeah.
Like she is absolute class. What a year she's had. And I struggled a little bit for my favourite male fighter because it's for two different I've got two, but they're for two different complete reasons. And I just want Sugar Sean for finally coming out and doing what he said he's going to do ever since his first ever fight on Contender Series.
Yeah, that was a good moment.
That is an awesome moment. And Matt Frivola.
Yeah.
Just first person who ever put Drew Dober flat on his face, man.
Yeah.
That was insane. That's not an easy thing to do. Like Drew Dober is a hard guy, and to put him down, put him out, that's mental.
I mean, Drew Dober's got the most knockouts in lightweight history and never been knocked out in his MMA career. So to kind of not take the record, but to kind of knock out the guy who's known for knocking everyone else out and be the first guy to do it. Although he did get head kicked into oblivion, that's a big.
You can't take that away from him just because of Benoit's success.
I'll go on to mine. I'll go favourite female fighter, a bit of an interesting one. I've actually gone with Macy Barber.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't always the biggest fan of Macy Barber because, well, I was kind of one of these MMA fans when I was a bit younger. You kind of just enjoy to hate, a lot of MMA fans are like that. I'm a changed man now, and she's come back and had a real positive year. She's been on a bit of up and down career, but she came back, beat Andrea Lee on decision, and then finished Amanda Ribas by knockout in the second round. And that performance was really just like the performances of the really early Macy Barber when she burst into the UFC and putting on finishes as a woman fighter. Really good to see finishing such a good striker like Amanda Ribas. We saw what Amanda Ribas was capable of in her last fight, winning it by spinning kicks. So, yeah, just Macy Barber, female for me. And male fighter, I'm going Alex Pereira.
Yeah, I mean, you can't not like.
He did get knocked out by Izzy, which, produced one of the coolest moments for Izzy in the UFC. But Pereira, put that behind him, moves up to light heavyweight, beats the former champion in Jan Blachowicz.
Double champ.
Which is a hard thing.
And there's rumours towards him fighting up another weight category as well. Could you imagine that?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And he beats Jan Blachowicz, and he also then goes on to knock out Yuri Prochazka, which is, we all know how good Yuri is. So becomes the two-division champ, two-division glory champ, introduced into the Glory Hall of Fame. I'd say that's a pretty good year for Alex Pereira.
Yeah.
You can't really argue, can you? We speak about what his ranking is just as a martial artist in general, as far as, so it's completely understandable. I do respect that as well.
It's like a Terminator of a human being too.
I think
just built for that life.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? Just be
completely built for that life.
The stare downs and stuff. That was him and
He's
Yuri's
a scary looking guy, man. Funny character though.
Yeah,
he's another one who could have been up there for personalities. To be honest. Yeah.
He's a strange guy, but I think going on to the next category, should we move on to KOs of the year? I think that's a pretty fun one.
Yeah, let's do KOs of the year.
So I'm gonna run through my top 5. So I've got Barboza Quarantillo, number 5, the straight up knee, no flying knee from Barboza this time, just a knee up the middle. Number 4, I went with the Justin Gaethje head kick over Dustin Poirier, to do that on such a big stage. And to do it over a guy who's already beat you by knockout, just massive win for Justin Gaethje. Number 3, I went with Tom Aspinall's knockout over Pavlovich. The same thing goes. He went into the fight injured, took it on a week's notice, and knocks out the scariest heavyweight in the world in 50 seconds. Number 2, I don't like to put it here, Islam Makhachev knocks out Volk with the head kick just after such a first competitive fight. To just go in there and smoke him and set the head kick up beautifully like a seasoned striker was just amazing. Number 1, I went with Bryce Mitchell against Josh Emmett. Just, in my opinion, top 5 most brutal knockouts in UFC history. The way he was sort of like pulsing afterwards, it was just a scary sight. But at the end of the day, that's what this sport's for, brutality. That's my number 1.
So for my number 5, I went Trevor Peek versus Eric Gonzalez, and it wasn't because it was necessarily the most technical knockout. I don't think you could call it technical at all, really.
No, it was fun.
It was just brutal, and it was to to think that works
Mm.
in the UFC, it doesn't work against anyone who's better than that. But no, it might. It was just really impressive. Was it hammer fist over hammer fist
Yeah,
over and over again? Overhand hammer fist or whatever it is. Number 4, I went for Bonfim versus Terry McKinney. This was brutal.
Yeah,
I know
that
he
was
spits his mouthpiece out as well, or he gets knocked out beforehand, and it's just horrible, really. Like to do that on your debut as well.
Yeah, it was his
To do
debut.
that on your debut against someone like Terry McKinney, somebody who's notorious for just finishing or getting finished. That's really, really impressive. Number 3, Aspinall versus Pavlovich. Pavlovich is somebody who finishes over and over again. He's a heavyweight, so he can finish anyone. This is a fight I was very concerned for Aspinall, but he just took it.
Yeah.
He absolutely annihilated him, and it's a shame that it's a good thing that it lasted as short as it did, because I was very worried. I thought that the way to victory would be through grappling, but not required. Gaethje versus Poirier, the way it's set up, the head kick.
What number is that? 2.
Number 2, and number 1. I mean, Makhachev, Volkanovski. It's a shame the fight didn't go on any longer, but you can't discredit what a head kick, and he knew exactly what he was doing as well. With the way Volk holds his guard up, he knew exactly where he was aiming for.
Harry?
Mine's a little bit different to you boys, I won't lie. So I've got Robbie Lawler against Nico Price for his retirement fight in at number 5. Yeah, I thought it was just a sick display, and for a last fight, you can't ask for much more. And then I've got at number 4, I've got Morgan. This is an unknown one because he's new and it was his debut. I've got Morgan Charrier versus Manolo Zuccini with a body knee, and he follows it up with a kick as he's going out.
Was it
he just dropped? No, it was just a straight turning kick, but he followed through with it so nice. And the slap it made on his body just made the guy drop.
I remember that. That was his debut as well.
That was his debut, yeah. Both of their debuts, actually, I believe. And then at number 3, I've got Josh Emmett and Bryce Mitchell. I mean, it could have gone a little higher, but I seem to favour head kicks a little bit more.
Overhand,
but it was perfect, and to see a man twitching on the floor like that is disgusting. At number 2, I've got Barbosa's standing knee against Quarantillo. To watch a man fold like that is absolutely mental, especially like off the cage as well, just through the knee up the middle. And then in at number 1, I've got Gaethje versus Poirier with the head kick.
That was a big one.
That was a massive one, and like not only just on Gaethje's side, but Poirier just for styling his hair whilst he fell to the floor. If there's anyone who's going to get knocked out in style, it's him.
True, that is true.
Was it a Herbie elbow?
Yeah, oh god, yeah. He gave him the Rock's elbow and tried pulling Gaethje up.
I had to make sure he was out.
So that's all our top 5. Is there any? I don't think there's any horrific ones that any of us want to point out on each other's list. Is there?
I think I feel like my Trevor Peak one, Eric Gonzalez. That's just a fun one, though.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about.
It's alright, isn't it?
The thing is with knockouts, it's your preference as well. It's what you like seeing, what you like watching.
I mean, with these lists, it's all pretty much our preference. So there's obviously going to be people that strongly disagree with our list, but you're not making them, so get over it.
Make your own if you're not happy.
We're flying through these. I think we'll just keep the roll going. We'll move on to submission of the years. Keep the finishes going. We all love finishes. I'll get started with my list. Starting at 5, I went with Shavkat against Jeff Neal. Just brutal. Sort of reminds me of the John Jones standing guillotine against Machida, where he just kind of drops his lifeless body against the cage. And Shavkat did the same thing. And the fight. I mean, I think it was maybe not. I'm definitely mine and Harry's top 5 fights of the year too. So to get a finish like that at the end, it was just a brutal finish. Number 4, Yair Rodriguez against Josh Emmett. I went with this just basically because the whole performance overall, it was just a masterclass. And then, I think Emmett tries to take him down, I can't remember the exchange that led to it, but just gets put on his back and sets up the triangle choke beautifully.
Beautifully as well.
And I love a triangle. It's just great.
It's one of my favourite. It's one of my favourite subs to see. It's always entertaining to watch.
Number 2, I went with Alex de Grasso against Shevchenko. Won their first fight. Obviously, it wouldn't be their second, but submitting one of the best fighters ever. And you're down on the scorecards doing it in the last round. Just such a big moment. Wins the belt and kept it against her in the rematch later on in the year too. So I've gone that at number 3. Number 2, Damon Blackshear against Jose Johnson. I think only the 3rd ever twister in the UFC.
Mental.
I wanted to put it number one, but I actually think, in my personal opinion, my number one it's maybe not a harder submission to pull off, but it might just the whole setup was cooler. So number one, I went with Grant.
Yeah, I've got the exact same list as
Yeah,
you, bro.
David Ridley.
Sub for sub, I've got the exact same list.
Davy Grant against the sense how he was losing the fight, gets a point taken away. They stand him back up. He's got a minute left, and he goes ham, drops him with a spinning back fist, and then sets up an inverted triangle and puts him out cold. Just brutal submission.
Yeah, he was possibly out for a good 10, 15 seconds before the referee even pulled him off as well. That was another really, not a poor one because the referee couldn't see, but you could, from the camera angle that we were seeing, he just went limp almost immediately, and he was just led in the middle of this triangle.
What about you, Phil? Let's move on to your top 5 list.
So my fifth one, I don't think this is necessarily one of the best submissions of the year at all, but how quick it was and the importance of it. I went Jones through Organ. I saw this on a lot of big lists, and it's not a really impressive submission at all, really. And doing it against somebody like Cyril Gahn, who isn't known for his grappling, especially when you're John Jones and you are known for your wrestling, it's not necessarily a super impressive finish, but the importance of it and how quick it was. First round, few minutes in. Next one, Bomb from Lazez.
What a sub. That was actually a really good sub, to be fair.
Can't knock it at all, really. Shevchenko, Grasso, like I said, the importance of it.
Yeah.
And then with Shavkat versus Neil, a lot of it's just the power and the strength you have to sub someone standing up.
And it was it wasn't like a proper rear naked either. It was like half a bulldog choke, and he just dropped him on the floor afterwards.
Yeah, that's not nice.
No, but he did. It was like a bulldog choke, and he just let go, and he just flopped. That was a really, really nice submission to watch.
But it's not really. Like, you can do that situation mode there, really.
Power him to the ground.
Yeah, and then for the first one, Blackshear Johnson.
I think Twisters are just such a rare thing, such a high level, and massive credit to them on Blackshear because a week later he stepped in and fought Mario Batista as well, who's an absolute beast, and put on a really close fight on a week's notice with him. So
that's that real stocky little guy. Just absolute swings.
So that was a really good year for Damon Jackson. Damon Jackson, Damon Blackshear. Damon Jackson, God. But yeah, I think near enough pretty much all the same list. I'm going to move away from the list now. I'm going to move on to let's go on to some single moments. Who's everyone's debut of the year, and what's everyone got for that? Who's first?
I'll go first. Yeah. I'll go first. Right. For the best debut of the year, I've actually got both brothers who fought on the same card, Ismail and Gabriel Bonfim. I couldn't pick between them. They both came out, first fight, first finish. It was bloody awesome to watch. Yeah. There are a couple of others that were very close competitors to that, but they had to get it for me.
Yeah, I mean, Ishmael's debut, the flying knee against Terence McKinney, to knock out Terence McKinney with a flying knee.
And it's not like it's a bum opponent either. Terence McKinney's a beast. He might be a little bit too reckless sometimes, but he's a beast, and not someone that you can expect to be knocked out like that.
It's a very difficult opponent for your first fight as well.
And to just wipe him out like that.
Terence literally goes out there and finishes people straight away. Multiple UFC level fighters, he's just gone out there and knocked Matt Favola out in 13 seconds. Yeah. That's how good this guy is.
And Favola's got chin too.
Yeah. So yeah,
what about you? Shown it that much this year, actually.
He's eaten some big shots.
He's eaten some big shots. Yeah.
What about you, Phil? Who's your debut?
So I've gone for Bo Nickel, and I've gone for the arm triangle choke against Jamie Pickett. For that to do that on your first fight in the UFC, so quick as well.
Yeah.
Again, Pickett's not a bum either.
No,
he used to be a really good fighter.
But he did knee him in the nuts before he got the takedown. So that I was going to go Bo Nickel, but there was a little foul that the ref didn't see that led to the takedown because Jamie Pickett actually defended the first takedown. So that was the one that made me not go with that one, but it was a very good debut.
I think there were 3 or 4 though, which it could be, So it's hard to just but even then though, even if you look at it, it did have a big impact.
I
was gonna say it would have had, but it definitely had a big impact.
But let's be real, he would have took him down and done the exact same thing no matter what.
Yeah, the fight was going that way the whole way. Whole way through the fight.
I've gone something a bit different to you guys. I went with Alistair Askarov's knockout over Phil Hawes. Again, a really game opponent. Phil Hall's been in the UFC for a while, knocking people out. A good striker, really good wrestler too. And it's kind of just the sort of aura around Alice Grove. He's coming in. He's the only guy to ever beat him is Hamzat Chimaev, and in a really good fight gets knocked out in the last round. Chimaev could not take him down there. It was shot like 5 times, didn't get one takedown on him. And we've seen how high level of a striker he is now in the UFC. I think he's got 2 or 3 knockouts now. So yeah, his debut was a really good debut, and just shown to be such a high level striker, knocking out Wally Alves afterwards. So
Miracle's favourite.
yeah, I think that's what
Opponent
beats it
to
for me.
Opponent to take. Final debut.
What about
Definitely.
what about everyone's best performance of the year?
Best performance of the year.
So
So
on,
you go
Fergal.
first.
I went Yo Romero against Marvin Vittori.
Yo
And
Romero,
yeah,
Jared Cannon.
yeah.
Jared Cannonier.
Yeah, I was thinking about Yo Romero like not so long ago. It's definitely not Yo Romero. But that would
It's Bellator now.
yeah, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? But no, so Yo Romero, also known as Jared Cannonier.
Oh,
No,
getting cancelled, man.
Yeah, all them Yo Romero, all them Jared Cannonier fans out there are going to be going mad after this podcast.
Nah, in fairness, I was like looking at him on American Top Team, and
Yeah,
that's literally all it is. So I accidentally wrote his name down and nothing else to it. So with Jared Cannonier, the first round looked really competitive, and to be fair, Marvin Vittori was doing bits, but after that, it was just domination.
Yeah.
It was just dominant. He was walking towards him. He was berating him with strikes. He wasn't giving Marvin Vittori any space to really do anything. And the way he was covering up as well, to do that when somebody's coming towards you, it was almost like he was broken.
Yeah.
And to do that relentlessly. And Marvin Vittori, he's not a super easy opponent to take. He's quite high in the rankings. He's very high in the rankings, actually.
Very higher than I thought he was, actually, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
he's
been
ranked in
for
at number
ages.
like 3 now. It's like,
Well, it might be a bit lower.
yeah,
now.
it might be lower now, but during that fight, he was ranked in at number 3.
Yeah, he's been top of that division for a long time now, and for Jared Cannonier at like 40 years old to show that much improvement in his game,
He just seems to get better and then fall off a little bit, and then he comes on a massive run again and gets good again. It's a weird one.
You know, it's just strange when you see a fighter at that age improve that much. It makes me kind of like question how they're improving that much. You know what I mean?
Mad genes, mad genetics, man.
Yeah, he clearly does. But that was actually one of my performances of the year too. You know, to walk forward and he broke Marvin Vittori, and that's one thing that people can't really do to Vittori. He's a bit of a nutter, and he just doesn't stop moving forward. So, and the wrestling looked on point and everything. What was your performance of the year, Harry?
My performance of the year. I've spoken about this one already tonight. What an impressive performance from Matt Favola against Drew Dober.
Yeah,
to come out and not only war it out and stand there in the pocket with Drew Dober, which is one of the hardest things you could possibly do. He fucking knocked him out as well, man. Which is insane. Drew Dober's never even been dropped, I don't think, before that fight.
No, he'd been dropped, but not knocked out.
Never been knocked out, man. Crazy chin strength, and to see him get folded by Matt Favola was sick.
Yeah. My one I've gone Islam Makhachev, the rematch against Volkanovski, to come off such a close fight, and you wouldn't expect him to kind of get the better of the striking exchanges. In the first fight, he was doing very well in the striking, and in the second fight, he came in with a master game plan, started really kicking low into the body, and then set the high kick up in the first round, knocks out Volkanovski with a head kick. In my opinion, don't get a better performance than that. He didn't even get punched in the face. Like, literally a little few punches in the clinch, and then, gets out, and he looks like the dominant striker in that matchup. So, what a performance from Islam Makhachev.
Yeah.
I think this next year for Islam is going to be insane. Like, he's probably going to go up and fight for the welterweight title, fight Leon Edwards for that as well. So, probably got another super fight to look forward to next year. What about? Let's go to our most controversial personality of the year. Who, in your opinion, was maybe the hardest to watch at times?
Kobe Covington, especially after the dad stuff with Leon. Manel Cape as well.
Yeah.
Just want to say that he had a press conference a few months back
with Izzy.
Yeah, with Izzy, and he was just screaming insanities at people.
Dropping the F-bomb.
facts and shit
Yeah,
like that.
that
For
was
God's sake, it's
terrible.
not okay. It's not something you can do on a stage in front of fans and that as well. It's
God.
just not. It's not the best thing you could be doing.
And
Not
Entertaining
acceptable.
though. It is entertaining though. It was
yeah, it was
entertaining.
insane, especially when he's trying to stand up and fight Israel Adesanya.
Biggest guy there, the
Yeah.
smallest guy there.
That's one of those things that you can't be them out at all, can you? Really? Like,
No,
it's
it's not. It's
acceptable
not.
whatsoever.
Which is
Not
why I
acceptable.
had to mention him in the most
Yeah.
controversial.
What are you, Fo? Who did you go with?
So this is one of my favourite personalities. However, it is a very controversial one. It is Sean Strickland.
Yeah, he's had a mad year.
Crazy, yeah.
In fairness, he's a good person, I think.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
think he's
he
a
is.
very controversial person.
Yeah.
And the way he does things, obviously, there are the obscenities and whatnot, which, like I said, like I said about Minel Cape, he does say similar things at times, which just are not okay. However, if you look at what some of the stuff which has happened to him outside the octagon, for example, pistol whipping somebody.
With a gun, like in between someone's eyes. Mind you, the guy was on his property, and he was shadily looking around his car and
The
everything.
guy, apparently the guy was drunk, just beat up his missus, crashed his car, and then ran in to hide on Sean Strickland's property. So,
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that
Yeah.
bad, but yeah.
Best part about it was he's in flip flops as well. One of my ring
He
camera.
walked out of his front door, whacked a pistol out.
Also,
Crazy guy.
on Joe Rogan's podcast, that was just one of the craziest things I've ever listened to, just talking about his desire to kill people and stuff like that. And he used to oh no, I'm not even going to get into it because there was some deep stuff on that podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, crazy year for Sean Strickland.
Interesting, isn't it? And also looking at all the stuff he does, like drama as
Yeah,
well. It's so interesting. He does have some very outdated views.
Yeah.
yeah, he does.
Yeah, outdated is the perfect word for it as well. He's very old. He's very old-fashioned, Andrew Tate sort of style.
So shocked when I saw Sean Strickland hate on Andrew Tate because I thought they'd be best friends, to be honest.
It's not a fan of the at all.
No, but
Very
more or
similar
less men.
views.
it kind of got a point in some aspects, like the people that kind of follow that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of weirdos that are big fans of Andrew Tate, like over the top. No, but like, there's people who like him. Like some of the stuff he says, I think it's all right.
Some of the stuff he says actual makes sense, but like the most of it is just racist and sexist nonsense, man.
I don't know if it's racist.
No,
We won't talk about
it's
Andy.
sexism.
Let's not get into our
Yeah,
views
this is
on
like a
Andrew Tate.
complete.
So we've gone on the wrong track here.
Well, you like Sean Strickland, you like Andrew Tate, so we know what you're saying through that. What are we even on? God, I've lost my moment. Oh yeah, my most controversial. I've gone Kobe Covenant as well.
Yeah, you can't not, can you? Really?
Speaking about someone's deceased father and dragging their son to the seventh day of hell to say hello to him, it is rough. That is bad trash talk. Kobe Covenant, I was a fan before that fight. I'm no longer a fan. I think that's for most people now.
I think I've always struggled with what Kobe says. I've always struggled to like him. Every time he opens, I like his fighting style. I love him as a fighter, but every time he opens his mouth, he just makes me think, what a tosser.
Yeah, it's not good.
A lot of it as well is he was firing shots at everybody in the press conference, and a lot of it is to try and build up. Fair enough, but there is something you don't do, and even after the post-fight press conference, if you look at what he was doing.
Fox News, Christ's sake.
God,
yeah, that was awful.
Yeah, I do feel like they kind of baited him into saying that. There was a lot of political agenda behind that.
I don't think Kobe needs baiting to say anything. He just comes up with random, horrible nonsense.
But to make that comment, but even after the post-fight talking about why should he feel sorry for somebody who did so and so, obviously we don't know about it, and we're not really going to talk about that because that's just not something which I think we should be talking about here.
There's no personal. That's just a rumor as well. It's just
that is facts though. Let's be real.
Well, there's regardless of it, it's just there are some things you don't do, and you need to have some respect. And it's interesting when you're making your press speech and you see Trump walking away.
Yeah, God, that is embarrassing.
It's supposed to be one of his best
mates.
He's
like, everyone stand up for Trump, man. Trump's just walking out the arena, cringing.
Well, so he said that Trump's going to put the belt around him.
Yeah, no chance.
Yeah, look, that's not happening. Like, there's no way he's going to be allowed to enter the octagon. Surrounded by his 8 Secret Service agents.
Instead, we'll have Rishi Sunak wrapping the belt around Leon Edwards. Just like that.
Brilliant. A lot of it as well, though, is it's interesting because you look at Trump talking about Masvidal and Kobe, and it sounds like he prefers Masvidal to Kobe.
Yeah,
he's saying he admires what Masvidal has done, but well, Kobe's a MAGA guy,
Mm.
so
Yeah, he wears the hat and runs around
yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
yeah.
He's just not a good person at all, really. And I'm happy that he lost the way he did, and he performed the way he did as well. If you want to
He
be,
looked trash.
Yeah, he
and
did not look good at
he
all.
could not back up whatsoever, and it just
No.
makes it so much worse.
It makes it so much more satisfying to see, doesn't it? The fact that he couldn't back up his words this time. Like,
It's interesting how many like Kobe fans there were before the fight,
Yeah,
and how many there were
yeah,
after.
definitely. I'm even
Very,
in that minority. I was a big
yeah,
Kobe fan,
it's
yeah,
very
you've been
fickle,
a big
really.
Kobe fan for
mm.
a long time.
and I'm
He
not,
is entertaining.
yeah, that's it.
Brings a lot. He brings a lot to the sport. Brings a lot of views and a lot of people, a lot of fans. But maybe not so much anymore.
I mean, he has kind of crossed the line a couple of times, like making jokes about Matt Hughes on the train tracks and stuff like this. But
Ridiculous.
but nothing that went as bad as this. So terrible year for Kobe Covington. I think we should move on.
Yeah.
We haven't done fighters of the year yet, have we?
No, we haven't done. I was just looking at that category and thinking,
But I think first, let's just get the biggest WTF moment of the year. Yeah. So
it's the most shocking moment.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
moment shocked you the most? Harry, why don't you get started?
Well, there's not really anything I can go for other than the poor refereeing with the Bobby Green fight.
Yeah.
That was absolutely poor. The guy was dying on the floor
Yeah,
whilst
was
Turner was
terrible.
beating his head in. That referee was poor all night as well.
Yeah, the doctors and
I don't think he even got sacked for it, but
No.
he definitely should be under investigation or watched.
Mm.
You're a professional referee and you can't be letting that happen to your fighters.
I do
I
agree.
agree.
Bobby Green started a pulse. I don't know why they stopped him that early. Honestly,
Oh man,
You love it,
it's
don't
so
you?
bad.
that was shocking. That was honestly disgusting, really.
Yeah, it
And
was.
to think that he was very close to it as well. He was watching it happen. It wasn't as if it was a hard position to see. It wasn't as if it was a hard position to gauge.
No, mate, his head was bouncing off the floor unconscious, man. It
Yeah.
was ridiculous. I would have so much preferred to see the Hooker fight over the Turner fight because I said to you going into it, Turner's going to do that to Bobby.
Yeah,
He
that
just
was not a
straight
good
away.
matchup.
It's a shame as well because Jalen Turner himself felt bad about it.
Yeah.
Asking
of
somebody
course
there
you
from the
would,
same
man.
town, and you don't want to have to do that. I mean, I know there are some people who probably aren't too bothered about that. You know, for example, like I know that
Probably lawyers and
Masvidal
stuff.
and Masvidal and Askren that wasn't super late because he couldn't really do much
No.
any quicker. However, yeah, no, it's just not a pleasant thing to do, but it's what they're trained to do. They're trained to keep going until
Until the referee drags them off. That's their job.
and that's why the referee should be on top of that. It's not hard to
He was
tell.
across the other side of the bloody octagon when it happened. When he dropped. Anyway, for Christ's sake, you should be there in the fight, watching it closely.
Well, what about you, Flo? What's your biggest WTF moment?
So mine is the UFC 294 card. It was the Volk Macho card, I believe. It was Dubai, it was in Dubai, it was in the UAE, and the doctoring. So first, there were what were there 3 shots which were allowed, which should have not been allowed, or there were 3 like very illegal.
It was the nut
moments.
shot, and then he said he didn't get hit in the nuts, wasn't it?
So that's the thing.
And then there was the Johnny Walker one just later. That referee, man, or doc. No, it wasn't the referee. It was the doctor, wasn't it? Yeah, that doctor was terrible.
So the Basharat, Victor Henry. Victor Henry's not the type of person to roll around on the floor for 5 minutes screaming and crying. And I think it was it was something to do with his testicle, maybe a burst testicle.
Yeah, I think he popped it, didn't he?
Yeah. A very, very serious injury. So obviously you get the doctor in, the doctor's checking him out, and he looks at him and he's saying, "I saw it. You didn't get kicked there.
I saw it. You didn't get kicked in the nuts.
You're lying."
Oh, God.
How can a doctor say that to a fighter? You're like, because he genuinely did as well. He was like, "I don't believe you're telling the truth. I saw the shot."
Yeah. Stop trying to blag it. You're not getting a DQ win.
Jesus, it's like a regular work day for a slot trying to pull a sick.
It's one of these things that's shocking, really, because maybe he's just a fan. Maybe he's not actually a doctor. Maybe he's just a fan.
Poor man. Like the fact that that happened, and then literally 3 fights later, I think it was 3 or 4 fights later, Johnny Walker gets hit, and then he's like, "Where are you?" And he says, "In the desert." And because he says that, he stops the fight. What do you expect, man? They're fighting in the middle of the fucking desert.
So with this one, there was also another shot as well, which I couldn't quite remember which fight it was, but with the Johnny Walker one's interesting because asking somebody where you are, you're expecting them to say in an octagon in the UFC. not in the desert.
Mm.
So I'm a bit more understanding about one. I am a bit
They
more
were
understanding.
fighting in the middle of the. They were fighting in the middle of the desert.
In a city in the desert, in
Yeah.
a UFC arena, in a UFC fight. And a lot of the time, when you are checking for stuff like these injuries, you do want to find out where it is. Regardless, so he did seem relatively coherent if he is being over precautious. However, saying that for that to, it was mostly the nut shot, really.
Yeah.
The nut shot, that was appalling because I don't understand. Like, I think Dana said he was inexperienced, maybe.
Mm.
And I don't see why we have inexperienced doctors at events like that.
I think
It's such a big event.
I think both the calls were as bad as each other on that one.
I don't think inexperience is even what it is though, because even if you're inexperienced, you don't say you didn't get. That's not your decision to
Yeah.
make. That's the referee's decision.
Yeah.
I don't understand what he was playing at. Really, it's almost like he was paid off
Yeah.
because they were all fighters from that region in the world as well, which committed these fouls, which is very interesting. I know that Ankalaev isn't from the Dubai, but he's from around that region in Eurasia.
Should we move on to the fighters of the year? I think that's the probably the biggest big sort of like the
Probably.
list I was most looking forward to putting together. I'll run through my top five first. I don't know how similar they're going to be to your guys, so just if there's any major differences. Number five, I've got Tom Aspinall. Had 2 fights this year, comes back, beats Marcin Tabora in London. I was there, not bragging. And then beats Pavlovich in under a minute to win the belt. Justin Gaethje again beats Fiziev, beats Dustin Poirier. Just 2 massive wins there. Makhachev beat Volk twice. That's just as that is why. Leon Edwards number two, a win over Kamaru Usman, one of the best welterweights of all time, and a win over Kobe Covington. Although the performance wasn't great, just on paper, Kobe Covington is a sort of top ranked welterweight. So, and number one, I think it has to be Sean Strickland. 3 wins, big, probably who I've got as the biggest upset of the year as well.
Yeah, that's me too. I believe. Yeah.
So him beating Israel Adesanya, win the middleweight title, and just
completely outperformed him.
Outclassed him every round.
Just took him to school, and that's something you expected Adesanya to do to Strickland.
So, anyone got any major differences on their list?
My list is completely different. I got Benoit Saint Denis in a fifth. Pretty incredible year for him, especially just coming back into the sport and everything. 28 years old, such a late age to be doing it as well. And then I've got Weili, Zhang Weili. She managed to reclaim her belt and defended it. So incredible bloody year for her. And then I've got Edwards in at third. Again, awesome year. Defended his title. Then Makhachev, because what an incredible year that guy's had. And then Sean Strickland.
Yeah. Both Strickland number one. What about you, Fergal?
So my one, number five, I've gone Leon Edwards. I think that's a bit lower than you lot. Did you have Edwards on yours?
I had Edwards number two.
Number two, yeah. So I just feel like though he's got 2 title defenses which are really good. However, with how the Kobe fight was, I can't, especially with how many fighters there are as well. I then put Alexandra Pantoja at number 4.
See, this is one I wish I put in, to be honest, because this was like that. I just didn't have enough space to fill it in.
I probably should have put him over Aspinall, but biased.
With Pantoja, the year he's had has been phenomenal. The only trouble is at flyweight.
Yeah.
And that's the only issue. There are only really maybe 2 or 3 really big, hard competitive fights for him. Alex Pereira, he has been finished this year pretty brutally. However, he is also the double champ.
So what number's Pereira?
Double champ, and there's rumours of him going for a triple.
Number 3. Number 2, Makhachev. What he's done, beat Volk twice, like you said. He's had a very good year. He's looked very comfortable this year as well. First fight was really good. Second fight against Volk was dominant, ended very quickly. And number 1, Sean Strickland. He's got 4 wins. Most recent one against Dreykus in the crowd.
Oh yeah, 4 wins.
Yeah, 4 wins this year. When he asked Gilbert Burns just to move out the way slightly and pounces straight over the top of him.
Crazy, man.
That's very respectful. You have to.
He is somewhat a nice guy.
No, definitely. Honestly, he has morals.
Yeah.
Sean Strickland. He's had 3 wins. He's looking very good. I'm so excited for his next fight.
Yeah. So am I.
That's gonna be crazy. All the press conferences leading up to that. they're going to have this Fury on edge because that can kick off at any moment.
I guess so. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't kick off more, to be fair, in the last
Yeah.
so they did the season one, didn't they?
Yeah. Sean Strickland, I think it was all fun and games until he brought up his dad beating him up as a kid. It got a bit out of hand then, didn't it? But, I don't know what your boy's opinion is. I don't think that's that bad. If Sean Strickland is on every podcast making jokes about how his dad hit him,
It's not that
I'll
bad.
make a
Bridges
joke
does it,
about
yeah.
it then too, yeah.
Yeah.
Think about what.
It's his own fault for bringing it up so much
exactly.
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't. It's a bit hypocritical in my opinion because he does a lot of messed up shit.
And he says a lot of
He literally says kids need to get beat more to bring back like men in the world. So, in my opinion, he can't get all salty, but he did, and it caused some very fun moments.
But maybe he's proud of it. Maybe
Yeah.
he probably is.
made him who he is.
Yeah.
No, that's obviously not true.
It's character building, though, isn't it?
Not when it comes to child abuse.
I am only joking.
Has everyone gone through that list?
Yeah, I do so.
Let's just quickly blast. Me and Harry already said I was upset of the year. We both went Strickland versus Adesanya, completely outclassed him over 5 rounds. What about yours, though? What did you put on yours?
I'm gonna say the same.
Yeah.
Adesanya.
I mean, you just can't not everyone expected Adesanya to come out and take Sean to school, and the exact opposite happened, and Sean ended up taking Addy to school. So
yeah,
it's a weird one, isn't it? Because you can't really go anything other than a title fight. Because there are obviously big fights, but like for example, even the Tyreek and Daish fight, it wasn't upset. It was unexpected. I don't think upset would be the correct term, but it was definitely unexpected. And there have been a lot of fights like that which just have ended a lot sooner and in a much different way to what was anticipated originally.
Yeah, we're coming to the last few categories now. We've got a few cool ones to run through. Let's start off with comeback of the year. I've gone with Elvis Brenner against Guram Kutaladze.
What a comeback that was.
Starts off, loses the first round. I think it could have even been a 10-8. I might be wrong there. Covered in blood, being kind of dominated in the first round, then just switches tide in the second and gets to finish. What a comeback that was. And he has just had a great year. He's such a good year he's had. Well, Harry, what have you got on your comeback of the year?
I just want to say, literally, what you said about blood everywhere in that fight, literally his hair was white at the start and it was
red
pink.
At the end,
within 2 minutes, 3 minutes of the fight, it was pink.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I've actually got Barbosa versus Youssef for the comeback of the year.
Good one.
Youssef was landing some massive shots. I thought Barbosa was going to get cracked real soon in that fight. And then Barbosa just managed to grind his way out and find his victory, which is something he's so good at doing. He's done it time and time again over the years. He's such a good comeback fighter. So that's my comeback for the year.
I think an interesting thing with that as well, he's at the end of his career, cutting all that weight to get to featherweight against one of the hardest punchers in that weight class. And he ate bombs, got dropped twice early on in the fight, and then comes back and wins on decision as well. It's not even like he got his own finish. So he really came back and started winning that fight. So, one of the biggest wins in Edson's career, in my opinion, at this late age against such a young stud like Youssef. Great win.
To think as well, like what the tear is on at the moment.
Yeah.
So for this one, I've gone for Mike Breeden versus Anshul Jubilee.
Oh yeah, you love that one, don't you?
Yeah, and it's not very often you see somebody start barking at you being 2 rounds down, but the way he came out, it was crazy, really. Like it's not something which you ever really see. Obviously, we do occasionally see these fighters just switch on, but the first 2 rounds we're seeing Jubilee just absolutely dominating him, looking so technical, piecing up every strike. Breeden can't do anything about it whatsoever. He is getting completely pieced up. Third round comes along, he starts barking at him, and
not bad too, man. That was so funny.
Crazy.
Screaming at him. Jubilee shook though.
Yeah,
it did shake him. It shook him to his core, didn't it?
I can't believe they cut him after that, man.
Yeah,
Breeden got cut after that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Hopefully they bring him back at some point.
Like you can't cut someone after they come back.
He was awful.
Yeah, he was.
He wasn't a 3-fight lose streak, and
just straight after that though.
He hadn't won a UFC fight.
No,
like he was literally
But you got to keep him after that comeback win.
Innit?
I think he tried to do that to not get cut. In fairness,
In it, how do you cut someone out?
Like that, yeah, innit? You should at least give them another fight after that.
'Cause
And
that
if they
was
turn out
so-
trash, then you cut them.
That was just cool as well. Everyone remembers that, It's just like,
even the post-fight press conference, or the not post-fight press conference, the post-fight interview, he's talking about how he's not the best start in the UFC and he always gets better later on in the fights. And in all fairness, I mean, it probably is that way. Like he's lost. I think he out of his 3 losses, 2 of them were finishes. One was Terence McKinney, which Terence McKinney finished a lot of people. To be
That's
fair,
a hard fighter as well. Yeah, Terence McKinney's a big dude, and he'll mess you up if you stand in front of him.
he was like 2 round 1 finishes.
yeah.
So maybe he is just a later fighter. Obviously, saying that if you're getting finished, you can't really be that kind of fighter who gets good in the 3rd round because, well, by round 2 you're out.
Yeah.
Regardless, though, comeback moment of the year, Jubilee. I think was he the first Indian fighter in the UFC as well?
First and second.
First-
I know there's 2 now. Well, he was the first of 2, but can't remember if he got signed after the other guy.
And it's the technical display of him to just. I mean, he was knackered in
Yeah,
fairness.
he was piecing him up, but he broke him in the end.
Yeah, he was shook. Honestly,
Really
I can't think of anything more terrifying. Shouting at him, barking.
Man. Like to have 2 rounds of bullying someone, and then all of a sudden they come out first minute of the first round, and they're just. It's going to be freaky as hell, isn't it? It's going to shake you a little bit.
I think moving on, what was our favourite title fight of the year? I'm not going to spend too much time because I've picked this fight for a lot of categories. Volk versus Islam, number 1. One of the best title fights in UFC history, so that's why it's my title fight of the year.
I'm sticking to the flyweights. I actually am. Like the Pantoja versus Moreno 3. That was such a good fight. I loved watching every minute of that.
What about you, folks?
I'm going to have to agree with you. My number 1 fight was Volk versus Makhachev, and it is the number 1 title fight. How competitive it was, how technical it was, how well he did moving up against somebody like Makhachev. The first one, it is fight of the year for a reason, and it is definitely one of the best championship fights.
Yeah, I think this one's going to be a real interesting one to see the reasons why we've all picked it. But we're going best personality of the year, best sport, MMA personality of the year. For me, I've actually gone Volkanovski. These guys keep appearing in my list. It's like I like it.
But it's starting to look a little biased over there.
But I like Volkanovski because his mindset outside the cage, and he comes out after the Islam Makhachev loss and says, he was waiting around. It was only 4 months since his last fight, but it was driving him insane. He was dealing with like some depression, and he comes out and talks about that openly. And how many fighters I've just seen come out and be like, yeah, we all get that. Like it's sort of gave a platform for fighters to kind of speak, and he really showed how tough he does find it when he's not fighting. And he seems unbreakable in his his mindset, and I think that really shown this year with probably the toughest losses of his career, and he's back with more confidence than ever. He wanted to fight again in December straight after that. He is just in my opinion, he's a one of a kind fighter. Like you find these fighters so very often in even like the whole UFC generation. So that's why I went Volk.
That's what he said. That's what he said though when he came up and spoke about his mental health. That's what he said. He said when he's not active, he's not in the gym, he's not training. That's when his mind starts playing with him. He's so much more healthy and better if he's just in the gym training for a fight. So that's when he said, "Get me straight back in there." Yeah.
What about you guys, Berg? What have you gone?
So it's a really hard one because they're like 3 or 4, all for like slightly different reasons as well. For example, we look at Pantoja, he's just so much fun. Just the way he talks, he's just so fun. He's so energetic. You look at round 3, how he talks about driving down the road, seeing that billboard, wishing it was him, or maybe it'd be him one day. Chimaev is fun. I know that he's it seems quite basic, but he's saying he wants to smash everyone all the time.
He's a funny guy as well.
Smash. And I'm not even saying smash.
But for this one, what I'm going to do is I know that we probably haven't heard loads and loads from him this year, or not as much as... I feel like he's always quite subtle. He kind of always flies under the radar a little bit. I'm probably going to go Yuri, just because how humble he was after the Pereira fight.
Yeah,
a lot of people would come out and they'd say, "Oh, I could have still gone," but when we were talking about, maybe he could have fought on, but he was like, "No, I was out."
I don't know if you listened to much of his interviews, but do you know what he did for his birthday this year?
I actually don't.
He locked himself in a dark room for 3 days with no contact to anyone.
No,
and just sat there doing nothing.
It wasn't surprising.
It's crazy, man.
That's a mindset thing. That is
crazy.
It's just his training mode in general. Like he does that. You might know the name of it, the one with the dots,
And he
like the
is that when he stands
perception.
on like one leg?
Yeah, well,
Oh, I
I
know
don't know
you.
about that,
Yeah,
but like,
I know what you're on about
yeah,
though. Yeah.
which helps us reach and us gauging, and it's
Yeah,
like it's
it's
so cool.
strange.
Like it'd be interesting as well because if you can do that kind of training, become a light heavyweight champ, then
Mm.
everyone's should be doing that, right?
What about you,
Well,
Harry? What did you go?
Well, I've struggled to choose between the two, both for very similar reason. Well, both for the exact same reason, really. Pantoja and Edwards.
Mm.
They both just speak with so much passion, and like Fergal said, Pantoja is just such an energetic,
Mm.
happy guy. Loves every minute of it. And Edwards, you can just see how much he loves the sport, how
Yeah.
much like it's his life, right? It's his like, the
Mm.
passion that comes out of his mouth when he talks in press conference or after fight interviews, post fight interviews. So, like, yeah,
Yeah. So this one, it's a bit of an awkward one because the gyms these days, there's so many fighters. You know, you can have a handful of fighters in one gym that do terrible, and a handful of fighters in the same gym that do really well. But my gym of the year, I've gone with Extreme Couture. They've got Patchy Mix, who won the Bellator title this year, beat Sergio Perez. They got Sean Strickland, who's also won the middleweight title this year. They've got a few other fighters as well who are doing really well. Just a really, really good year for Extreme Couture. So happy for Randy Couture as well. He's just doing amazing things with that gym. So yeah, I've gone them with the best gym this year. The worst gym this year, I kind of copped out on this one because it's not necessarily a gym, it's more of a coach. But I'm going to go Trevor Whitman because although Justin Gaethje's had a very good year, Rose Namajunas an awful year.
yeah,
Had one of the worst fights we've ever seen, and then drops Trevor Whitman and loses to Marion Ferro, and Usman has lost his last three fights.
yeah. Trevor Whitman's a good call.
Yeah, that's what I've gone with. What about you guys for the best and worst?
So this one here, I know you disagree with us on Harrison, but I feel like we have different perspectives.
Yes, we do very much so.
I went American top team. Now,
For the best.
for the best, I did.
Oh, okay.
Reason why you look at Pantoja, right, for a start.
Pantoja, yeah.
I
I've gone across all platforms. I didn't just do UFC for this one because there's so many fighters in each gym.
well, yeah, there is. They're all pros. But looking at as well as that, like looking at they're producing talent like Bo Nickel, right, and
Yeah.
Liskarov, and
Mhm.
these are what two of our debuts of the year.
Yeah,
Two of our debuts of the year. They've also got Tyrukian and Gamrot. If you look at, they have maybe not so much in the heavier weights, but if we look at, let's say,
they've got some bad ones too.
They've,
George
they've,
Masvidal.
they've also had some people who have been considered awesome this year
Yeah,
absolutely flop and fight like shit, which is why I'd probably put them in.
Romero had a terrible year in
I
Bellator too.
which is why
But you know,
overall platforms I'd probably put them the worst gym of the year for me. But they had Moraes who lost his belt in one.
mm.
Like it has been a bad year for the American top team
But
gym.
then it's also
Other than the
been
UFC, the UFC has got a couple of really good fighters up and coming.
I'd be able to think that when we look at these fighters like Romeo, if you look at how old they are
Yeah.
now, these fighters these are like legacy fighters almost.
Mm.
Like they have who is it? I do know his name. He's fighting very very soon. He's like heavyweight 40.
Arlovsky.
Arlovsky, yeah, Arlovsky. If you look at these guys, like yeah, they're not great, but that's because they're like late 30s.
To be honest,
40.
not gonna lie, boys, I think you're both just kind of wrong. I think they've just had a bang average year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a hard thing to call. I think. What did you go with best gym, Harry?
I went shooter boxing.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of well, there's always been monsters coming out of that gym from like Wanderlei Silva, Shogun Brewer, like Machida. We've had some absolute killers come from shooter, and the up and comers are doing the exact same thing. We got Elvis Brenner, who you said earlier, absolutely awesome little fighter, finds his way out of any fight, literally.
Felipe Dos Santos.
Felipe D'Souza.
Dos Santos, the one that had the fight with Kate, though, right? I swear that was.
I thought that was Souza.
Maybe. But...
Either way, they've got some really good little up and coming fighters, really young, new fighters, new styles. So yeah, I'm really interested to see what they do in the next few years.
What about did you go with your best? Yeah, you did. What's your worst, Jim?
So the worst one I went for is SPG Island.
Just an easy target, aren't they?
In all fairness, though, they don't have loads and loads of fighters.
No, they
They
don't.
don't have loads and loads of fighters, and I
Not
don't.
Johnny Walker though.
Well,
Decent,
but yeah, they do have Johnny Walker, and it's a shame, really, but because he hasn't had as good a year as he probably should have.
No, I'd say he's had a good year. Has he lost this year?
The last bout out, though, that when
Yeah.
he just topped it off, that would
He
have
made
really.
his way back into the top 5 this year. No one thought Johnny Walker was going to do
No,
that.
I didn't think he. I thought he was
No,
done.
same.
I thought that he was that one of them little hype journeyman
Yeah.
sort of things where he just like he came out, looked
Mhm.
sick for a year or 2 years, and then just went. Woo!
Yeah.
But no, he's come back in.
It's just that last fight, though, which is a shame because it's not his fault
Mm.
at all, really. I also think, though, if you do have one name like Johnny Walker, that
Yeah.
doesn't make you a good gym
Yeah,
necessarily.
you're right,
For example, prior to that, I know they had like even Artem Lobov wasn't a great fighter. He was a good fighter, but he wasn't a great fighter.
Trash.
Nah, you've got to show a bit of respect. You know what I mean? But if you look at their biggest names, like other than Conor McGregor, Matt Guani,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah, that's
decent.
Gunnar Nelson.
Yeah,
Wait, Gunnar Nelson came back and won this year, didn't he?
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah, he won fight this year.
Yeah,
I swear he did.
he might have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think looking at it, they've not really done enough. Maybe
No,
with the
they haven't.
exception of Johnny Walker, who then again unfortunately had that last bout was like what, no contest.
To be fair, I think you could give him worst gym of the year every year since about 2015, so it's not a bad answer, is it?
But in all fairness, if they start producing like really high level fighters after like this Johnny Walker,
To be fair, James Gallagher in Bellator as well, he kind of had a rebound year, looked kind of good. But yeah, overall, it's not a good year, is it? They don't produce loads of talent anymore. It's a bit rough.
Conor McGregor as well.
Yeah.
That's like if Conor McGregor fought this year and he won his fight, that would have like made them definitely not the worst whatsoever.
So we got 2 more categories left.
3, I believe.
Really, what have I missed? Worst gym of the year, best.
We got War of the Year, Breakthrough Fighter, and was there another one? I swear there was another one.
I think that's it.
Most disappointing performance.
Oh yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
actually done that one. I'm not gonna lie, but I'll think of it off the top of my head. What you guys?
I actually no. Well,
But anyway,
I haven't got that
let's
one,
move on
actually.
to the best war of the year. What was your favourite slugfest of the year? I've spoke about my one already. Sadikov Boroshev, just technical bloodbath. I'm not going to talk much more on it. What about you, Fo? What have you got for this one?
So I don't know if this one was necessarily like a bloodbath, but it was just constant, and it was the activity. Gaethje Fiziev.
Nice.
we have got another one. Best signing.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Virgil.
Yeah, Gaethje Fiziev.
Gaethje
I
Fiziev.
think we've already spoken about this, but
Yeah.
you can't discredit it. It was just so technical, and it was so on it really, and both were just going at each other continuously.
They're 2 stand in the pocket fighters. Love throwing their kicks. Love throwing their punches. Gaethje just loves being in the pocket.
It was actually kind of similar to the Sadikov Boroshev fight, where it was just all in the pocket.
Again, I think so was this one because the one I picked is Hooker and Turner.
Yeah,
and that was very, very back and forth.
Yeah.
Like they were like the one was all of a sudden one was against the cage, throwing a left right, and then they was following up with a left right. They were just going so back and forth the whole way through that fight. I loved it.
So that's that one. I don't know if you have done best prospect of the year. I've done best breakthrough fighter of the year. So maybe not necessarily a prospect, but someone who's just really had a breakthrough year. And I've gone from someone who actually hasn't been mentioned. He could have been on, any of these lists as top 5 fighters of the year. I've gone Roman Kopylov.
Yeah.
Three fights, 3 finishes, one of the knockouts of the year as well with the head kick over Rivera. Just what a year he's had. Really, really high level striker. He lost his first fight in the UFC, looked a bit dodgy, but he's on an absolute tear since then. So really excited to see what he does next year.
Oh, definitely. So it's one of those things. He's been in there for a little while now, but he's just exploded this year.
Yeah.
And we're seeing because I think that he might have been one of the fighters we first broke down, like maybe like a year and a half ago or so. And I remember we were speaking about it, and I've said to you beforehand, like, I thought that they were both quite basic.
Yeah.
They were both very much a bit too static and just didn't really throw enough, but he has completely changed.
Yeah.
He's so much more sharp and on it, and he's just a lot less static as well, and that power is there.
He's a beast.
Definitely so.
What have you gone on this one?
So I went for Chase Hooper, which I don't know what your thoughts are on, but
Has he lost this year?
No, he hasn't.
No.
I don't think so. No.
2 wins.
2 wins.
Yeah.
Most recent one against Jordan Levitt, who is a tough opponent. Pretty brutal knockout as well recently.
Yes. That's the first knockout as well, wasn't it? Yeah. Like this guy who a year ago couldn't throw a punch, by the way, as well. Like a year and a half ago, the guy couldn't throw a punch.
Yeah, he getting a first knockout this year and then stepping up and being able to submit someone like Jordan Levitt, it's been a big year for Chase Hooper.
Yeah, definitely like rear naked. So it's impressive as well because the way he's fighting as well is just he's on you, like he
Yeah,
wants you.
he's so good at jiu-jitsu, man.
And that's the thing, and we don't see too many fighters who are like that. We do see some very technical jiu-jitsu fighters, but a lot of them are like these wrestler kind of jiu-jitsu fighters. These fighters who shoot for a takedown, get you down, and then work with you on the ground. He's gonna run in and grab your ankle and like
Yeah,
just
start rolling.
yeah, it's so strange. I know he also does compete in grappling as well as the UFC, which is something which a lot of UFC fighters are allowed to do,
Yeah.
which is quite cool actually. To be fair, because they're not fighting anywhere else.
Aljamain Sterling grappling Sabatini in the next week, I think.
Really?
Interesting one, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting to watch.
What about you, Harry? What have you
My
got?
breakthrough fight of the year, I've gone very similar to yours. 3 finishes. Benoit Saint Denis.
Yeah, I was going to go for one.
Yeah, I mean, for a first round submission over Ismail Bonfim, who has looked on fire this year. And then Thiago Moises KO'd in round 2, and then
I called that perfectly.
KO against Matt Freves,
Yeah.
who was one of my favourite fighters of the year. And like just put him out in absolute fashion, like running away, holding his hands in a weird position. Just caught him clean on the chin and put him out cold. Yeah, he's absolutely just annihilated the scene so far. Because I think he had a loss last year.
Yeah.
I think it was his only fight last year, and he had a loss, or 2 fights last year. One of them was a loss, and then to come back in and then just absolutely shake up the whole division this year. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see what he does in the future.
Yeah, we got signing of the year. You know, there's a few different people. This could be Bo Nickel coming with a lot of hype, but I think I don't know
There's
what
only
everyone else
one.
is.
There's only one.
Michael Venom Page signed at the end of the year. He'll be one of the biggest stars in the UFC if he can get past his first win in Kevin Holland. They're going to start chucking him on pay-per-view straight away because he brings in eyes.
I got one problem with this signing though. I mean, there were people in Bellator that could hold that man on the ground.
Yeah, but
Like,
you got to give
he's
him
good.
good
Yeah.
matchups, haven't you?
I just, yeah, you got to give him good matchups. But I feel like the minute he comes against a wrestler in the UFC, he's done for.
But to be fair, he
Because Storley, I feel like there's 10 times better than what Storley is in the
not
UFC.
actual wrestlers though. Like
No?
Storley as a college wrestler is a very high level wrestler.
I'll tell you what, that was an absolute stinker to go and watch
That
live.
was terrible. The rest of the card was
The rest of the card was awesome, but what a shite main event.
But yeah, I think him coming to the UFC mattered. If he can get a win over Kevin Holland, I'll probably chuck him in against Wonderboy. That's what everyone would love to see. I don't know if it has anyone else got anything different to MVP.
Oh, I think MVP is the one though, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Look at the tear he's been on for years and years and years. I mean, like, if you actually look at it, how many losses have you had in the past? Like,
Not many.
not at all.
Storley.
I think,
Story and Diego Lima, and he got that one back, didn't
yeah, like 2 losses in a pro career of 23, 24 fights.
And
23
he's had
fights.
kickboxing and boxing matches. He's fought in it and bare knuckle.
Bare knuckle as well, Mr. Mike Perry.
Yeah, he's had a lot of different fights. So.
I would have loved to have gone and seen that one live. That would have been sick.
Finishes as well. Finishes continuously. Like it's what's the last one? A TKO leg kick.
God, destroyed someone's knee. That was brutal.
Didn't he make someone absolutely cry their eyes out and then throw a Pokeball at him to catch him?
Yeah, he crushed
his orbital bone or something. Yeah.
Skull.
Yeah, it wasn't from a Pokeball though.
No, it was from wrestling.
No.
That's
Nasty knee and then caught him in a Pokeball.
That wasn't a Pokeball. It was actually a cricket ball.
Was it?
No.
It was a cricket ball, bad at Pokeball. Came onto it.
Just dashed it.
Maximum damage. Lacrosse balls.
That's basically all we've got today. I think we've ran through a good amount of things. We've tried to get a few little different ones you might not see anywhere else on there. The podcast should be back every week now. We got another week next week where we'll find something to fill in the space. We hope you enjoyed this week of the Combat Chats podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify, share us around so we can grow. And yeah, we hope you enjoyed.
And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.